Hey guys, welcome back to another NFL video. Today we are going to be talking about the NFC South. We're going to go over their schedules, win totals, see if there's any futures or division bets that we can make in this division before the season starts. And we'll answer the question, will the Buccaneers win this division again? Or will the Panthers or the Falcons or heck, even maybe the Saints rise up and take that division crown from them? Let's jump into it, guys. Okay, guys, so we're going to start with the division champions from last year, the Buccaneers, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The NFC South has been dominated by the Buccaneers over the past couple of years, not always with Baker Mayfield, because you remember those two Tom Brady seasons. But this division is always up for grabs every single year because they are so bad. They are the worst division in football, no contest. They are bad. So, twice they've had a playoff representative that had a losing record, once just a couple of years ago. So before you start grumbling about where I put these wins and losses, if you've seen my other videos, you know that we are not trying to find the exact outcome of every single matchup right now. We can do that week by week throughout the season. Our goal right now is to just find kind of a median win total average to see if there are any edges on these Vegas lines for the win totals or any division futures. So last year, the Buccaneers had 4 division wins, and I'm just going to keep that the same for 2025. I still think they have a great team. I still think they have a good chance to win this division again. So we're going to keep them with 4 division wins and 2 losses. Baker Mayfield is a scrappy little guy, and last year this team won 4 of the 7 games that they played against playoff teams. So over half, just over half, including a win against the Super Bowl champion Eagles. This year, they're only facing 5 playoff teams, so their schedule actually maybe got a little easier. And they're also playing the 49ers, who could be a playoff team this year, potentially. So I'm going to give them half of those wins again, 3 out of 6. The remaining 5 teams are mid to bad, so I'm just going to give the Bucs the majority in this group as well. So this leaves the Buccaneers with 9 wins based on this model. I could see them winning up to 2 more games than this and losing up to 2 more games. So the range is technically 7 to 11. The Vegas line is right at 9.5. I had them at 9. And so I could see this going either way. And, when you can see it going either way, that means you just stay away from the number. Next, jumping into the Atlanta Falcons. Atlanta has a new starting quarterback who we haven't seen a lot of yet. And what we have seen looks pretty decent so far. I'm kind of a Michael Penix fan. There's definitely room for improvement, but there's room for improvement with almost everybody in the league. So I've been, this is, fair warning, I've been betting on the Falcons to win their division for 2 straight years, and I've been wrong 2 straight years. So just take that for what it's worth. The Falcons had a splashy win last year against the Eagles and swept the Buccaneers. But other than that, their only wins in 2024 came against bad teams. So they had 4 division wins this year. They had 4 division wins, last year. And so this year I'm going to drop that down to 3 to make that a little bit more even. I do think the Carolina Panthers are going to be a little bit better this year. So now we can take a look at the 4 remaining playoff teams plus the 49ers. Considering that the Falcons only had the 1 non-division win against a playoff team last year, I'm just going to give them 1 win against this group of 4. So what we have left are 6 mid to bad teams. So we'll just split that down the middle 50-50. And this leaves the Falcons at 7 wins with a range of about 6 to 9. I do think that the Falcons have a chance here to control their destiny. They can kind of choose how many games they want to play hard in and how many games they want to win. So the Vegas line's at 7.5. My model is saying 7 with a range of 6 to 9. And guys, you already know I'm betting this because in my head, it's always Atlanta's year to win the division. And right now, the juice on this bet is pretty bad. But I'm just going to parlay it with another team, maybe the Giants, something like that. You should probably stay away from this one, but I'm betting it. I've bet it for the last 2 years. Eventually, I'm going to be right. The Panthers are next, and, they're absolutely terrible to watch. They did get a lot better towards the end of the season last year, though. The Panthers are probably even in a better position than the Falcons to control their destiny because lately the Panthers have made some really good moves, But before that, they were making some incredibly bad trade decisions and draft decisions, in my opinion. Bryce Young's never going to be an elite quarterback. He might be able to produce week to week, but he's never going to be elite, in my opinion. Even though he did play well towards the end of the season, I do think that they made a really good decision in drafting Tetairoa McMillan this year, and I think he's going to be productive right off the bat. This is the easiest division in football to win, and the NFL gods have handed them an incredibly easy schedule. So this is the Panthers' time to shine if they want to play hard for it. Last year, the Panthers only had 2 division wins, and for now, I'm just going to keep that at 2, although I think they could get more than 2, maybe 3. The Panthers have 3 playoff teams on their schedule, not counting the Buccaneers, who we just already took care of. And that is the Bills, the Packers, and the Rams. Plus, they're playing the 49ers, who should be tough to beat for them. So I'm just going to hand out losses to all 4 of those playoff teams because the Panthers aren't good, and we're not going to pretend that they're elite. So they're not. So we're going to give them those losses there. But all the rest of the teams that the Panthers are now facing are mid to bad. So this is where the Panthers can kind of play for their lives and potentially win the division. I mean, I don't think that's going to happen, but it could happen. To be fair, I'm going to give the Panthers 4 wins and 3 losses out of this group since we didn't give them any wins against the playoff teams. So I'll split that 50-50 in favor of the Panthers on these bad teams or these mid teams. The way that this model is built puts the Panthers at 6 wins. I think they could win up to 3 more games if they really push themselves. So I could only see them losing 1 more than this. So that puts their range at about 5 to 9. The Vegas line is only 6.5. So for me, they're heavily favored to go over that line and land on 7 with the juice. No books are giving us odds at 7.5. If I do see 7.5 pop up at like plus 200, I'm taking it. But probably I'm just going to stay away from this line, at least the way that things are right now. And then the Saints, I do think that the Saints are probably going to lose their division, unfortunately. I have some Saints fans in my family, and I've always been a big fan of Drew Brees. So this is not something I want to do. I just think that they're in a really bad situation. They have some really good players that they just cannot get going, and there's a huge question mark at quarterback right now. So they've been fumbling quarterback decisions, in my opinion, ever since Drew Brees. They've had Terry Bridgewater for a little bit. They had Jameis Winston for a little bit. They had Andy Dalton for a little bit. Derek Carr. I thought those were all bad decisions. But the Saints are clearly targeting a ball slinger. They want someone like Drew Brees who's going to throw the ball down the field for big plays. And so this year they drafted Shuck, who is one of those types of quarterbacks. He is a ball slinger. So I don't know. I'm probably just going to bet interceptions against this team every single week because I think there will be one every single week. We'll see. Last year, the Saints only had 2 division wins. I don't see them getting to 3 this year. So I'm just going to give them 1, actually. I'll give them 2. I'll give them 2 just in case. I think they could only win 1, potentially. Since the Saints cannot beat playoff caliber teams, I just think it's safe to give them losses to the Rams, the Bills, and the 49ers. So we'll put those 3 losses on their schedule. And then the easiest matchups on the Saints schedule is Week 1 Cardinals, the Giants, the Seahawks, and the Dolphins. Those 4 teams are the easiest matchups on their schedule. The other kind of bad teams from last year are the Bears, the Titans, the Jets, and the Patriots. But those all have pretty good defenses. All 4 of those teams, the Bears, the Titans, the Jets, and the Patriots, all have decent defenses. And so I'm going to give the Saints the wins against the 4 easier teams and the losses against the 4 teams with the good defenses. And I think that's being generous. So this leaves the Saints with a win total of 6. The Vegas line is 6.5, although I have seen it at even odds at 5.5 on some books. So if you really wanted to bet over on the Saints, try to find that 5.5 line for even money. And then I can see the Saints going over that line. I can see them winning up to 2 more games. Maybe Tyler Shuck does work out, and maybe Rashid Shaheed becomes, just a superstar. I think he's a great player. He just is in a bad situation. The other side to that, though, is I could see the Saints losing up to 3 more games. So to me, their range is 3 to 8. And also, one thing to think about is, there's this narrative going around that the Saints also have some ties to the Manning family, and they might be thinking to try to get Archie Manning next year, kind of like the Giants. I mentioned that in a previous video. So I don't know if that's true. I don't know how much water, to put in those sorts of theories, but I do think that the Saints could end up being the worst team in the league this year, potentially, and maybe not even on purpose. So I do have one best bet for this division, and that's it. And that is the Falcons to win the division at plus 225. I think the odds are actually even better now. I've seen it at plus 240. So if you want to bet that and ride with me for the third year in a row, then go ahead and do that. And then I might be looking to parlay the Falcons win total over 7.5 with some other teams potentially. But I'm going to wait and see how minicamp goes a little bit. And then, let the lines settle. And then maybe I'll make that parlay bet with the win totals. Anyway, guys, thanks for joining me. This was pretty quick through the NFC South. We've already covered the NFC North and the NFC East. If you missed those videos, you can watch them on my channel. And next, we'll be tackling the NFC West.